Okay, welcome everyone to the Governance and Operations Committee meeting of Monday, April 22nd, 2024. And the meeting is in the council committee room and via Zoom. The first item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda, and is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Councilor Martin and Councilor Munson, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. We have a delegation today from Hope Air, and it's Stephanie Aldrich, and I believe Stephanie is online.
I'm here.
I can hear you. Oh, there you are. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, I'll let you go ahead with your presentation, and then if there's any questions or anything that we need to know, we got a little bit of time for that.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to join your meeting today. I am here in North Vancouver, the traditional territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations, but love to spend my time in the Kootenays with many family connections in Trail and Fruitvale and Rossland and Moorfield. So I'm happy to be joining you today. I'm going to just start sharing my screen, and I have a few slides. Right, you can now see my screen.
Yep, that's great.
Okay, so I'm joining on behalf of Hope Air, and Hope Air, we are one of Canada's only national charities that provides travel and accommodation support for Canadians in financial need who need to travel for medical care far from home. And as we are all very aware, we are very proud of our universal healthcare system, but unfortunately not all of us have equal access to that healthcare, and that is our mission to support as many people as possible. Our goals are 3 pillars around better health, to reduce the burden and barriers of travel to access healthcare, so that people are accessing care in a timely way when treatment interventions are more likely to be more successful. And doing so, we help to reduce poverty. And if you've heard of Jude Cornelson, a researcher at UBC, conducted a study she published in 2021, estimating the cost of travel can be up to $2,000 per episode. And you can imagine if you're suffering from a chronic disease or multiple visits required within a family, the type of financial stress that can create. And so our goal is to take care of that burden, the financial burden. And by relying on air travel, where people can avoid perhaps lengthy and often treacherous travel to a hospital, they can stay in their home communities longer, where they can be surrounded by their support network. Sorry, I just realized the screen is, you're blocking my slides here. So our primary focus, as our name suggests, is on air travel. We are not an airline, we're a lifeline, and we focus on getting people flights to where they need to go. But we've, over the years, been able to add 3 other programs, supporting hotel accommodations, ground transportation at the destination, and most recently, meal vouchers with our partnered hotels. All of our travel arrangements are made by a dedicated client care team. So we do not reimburse expenses. We do not ask our clients to make their own travel arrangements. Once an application is approved, we will book all of their accommodation and flights, and send that, as a travel agent would send information to one of their clients, we would send it to the individual. We would also support the costs and expense of an escort to fly with an individual if that's required, or parents if it's a child. And we will also consider accommodation-only requests where distance to travel is more than 80 kilometers. We will consider, we realize within BC, our travel air network is not in every community, and sometimes our weather is prohibitive. So we will also support up to 14 nights of accommodation.
Recording in progress.
Okay,
We're good.
most of our, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you, Stephanie.
Okay. The majority of our flights are supported through commercial airlines, but we have a very small but mighty volunteer pilot program, and who can transport patients in their private planes. Our pilots are phenomenal. Our pilots are fully vetted. Most of them are retired commercial airline pilots. They use their personal aircraft, and they may transport people from their home community anywhere that there's an airstrip they can fly into. And these may be communities that are not well served by commercial airlines, or people who are immunocompromised and unable to fly on a commercial flight. So these are smaller 2 to 6 seater planes. And we are recruiting for our pilots opening for this season, and hoping that we can recruit more pilots in the Kootenays and Okanagan so that we can better support the communities there. Last year, we supported over 196 communities throughout BC, literally from every corner of the province, and you can see the West Kootenays are well represented there. We've also started working with the BC Rural Health Network to help us to better understand the needs of those communities and support advocacy efforts. We've seen phenomenal growth year over year, and last year was nearly 150% growth from the year before, partly because we're coming out of COVID, hospitals are operating at full capacity, but also with the economic pressures families are experiencing. We're seeing more and more people come forward requesting support. So these are our national numbers, almost 25,000 travel arrangements, but within BC, which comprises nearly 70% of Hope Air's work is in BC. We've supported nearly 5,500 flights, 4,800 accommodation nights, as well as ground transportation and meals for over 1,200 patients. So we've been quite busy. The eligibility for our programs is quite simple. Patient needs to have a confirmed medical appointment. That appointment needs to be covered under their provincial healthcare plan, and they can attest to their gross family household income for the past 12 months and demonstrate that they are in financial need. The application is online. It's about a 10-minute application. Collects information, all the demographic information that we would require in order to book a commercial flight or a hotel on behalf of the patient, as well as contact information. Patients who are unable to access the internet or don't have a computer or not comfortable can call us at a 1-877 number, and one of our client care coordinators will fill in the application over the phone with them. And then lastly, I just wanted to speak a little bit about our Give Hope Wings expedition that is coming up soon. So Give Hope Wings is a series of expeditions fully planned and organized and supported by our volunteer pilots, and they do expeditions across the country. So this year we're doing 3 expeditions in Canada. Our Western expedition will be in BC, flying in June, starting on Vancouver Island and traveling to 11 different communities within BC. We plan to commemorate those pilots and their efforts and bring awareness to the issue of equitable access to healthcare with our first ever Hope Air Day on June 17th. And then lastly, I just want to introduce you to one of our patients. You might have seen her, I think she was on CTV News earlier this year. Bonnie from Grasmere, she's a bus driver and unfortunately was diagnosed with a rare form of ovarian cancer. She wasn't actually sure how she was going to be able to travel to be able to get to her appointments and through her treatment. but found out by another community member about Hope Air, and we were able to support her travel from Cranbrook to Vancouver with her air travel, ground transportation, and meals at her destination. And she has expressed her appreciation of us. And we hear this a lot from our patients, from family members, and the social workers that we work with. It's just when something like this happens in crisis, people aren't really ready for all the cost that comes associated with this. And that's my overview slides for today. I'm happy to take any questions, but I am happy to do this presentation for any community groups that you are connected with, and happy for you to share my information with anyone who wants to reach out to me. Pause. If I can figure out how to pause. There we go.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Martin.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering, how long does it take to approve an application once it's completed online?
We triage our applications. So we ideally will have 2 business days notice where we have to make travel arrangements. We do get some day prior. And we will do our best as long as we're able to accommodate them, depending on sometimes the travel dates and airline schedules don't always work out. But we will we just book them in priority order. So as they come in, we just take the next appointment that someone has is the first person on our list. So we will confirm we will confirm receipt immediately, and usually approvals can happen within 24 to 48 hours, and then the travel arrangements will be sent to the individual depending on their timeline for traveling.
Councilor Johnson.
Stephanie, from our previous meeting, can you just share with council the amount of people that get approved based on application, as well as what those individual and family incomes are? Because that was quite impressive, what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So we approve over 96% of the applications that come across. We do ask that people demonstrate they're in financial need, and as we are a charity, we reserve the right to change these income thresholds as our funding allows. We were very pleased in the fall to receive a grant from the province of BC, which we shared with the Canadian Cancer Society. So if someone is applying to Hope Air with a diagnosis of cancer, we will support them with a household income up to $150,000. If they don't have cancer, which there are many, many other things we will support people for, whether that's autism or cardiovascular disease, or the list goes on and on and on. We have a threshold of $80,000 for household income. I will say that we evaluate each application on its merits. So that is to say, if someone applies with $82,000 household income in the past 12 months, but has other reasons why they might have, financial burden at home, whether that be caring for other loved ones or recent job loss, or, there's many circumstances that don't fit neatly within our application. We will consider those as well.
Councilor Benson.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for the presentation. Just curious about the airports that you work with and whether they waive fees for landing or air fees that are associated with flying into their airports.
That's a great question. So actually we use the Hope Air, and I'm not a pilot, so this is new to me, but we use a Hope Air call sign. And I say we, our pilots, use a Hope Air call sign if they're a volunteer pilot, and airports will waive the fee for us. And so far we don't have any formal agreement with our airports, but so far that hasn't been a problem that have been reported by our volunteer pilots. And I mean, we fly into every airport within BC. So sorry, I'm not sure I'm answering your first question is which airports we work with. I mean, all of them. anywhere we need to go.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Stephanie, before you go, I just want you to know that I know 2 people personally that have used Hope Air, and they said that were very accommodating and that your service was excellent.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no any more questions or comments, I will let you go. Stephanie, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our communications and events coordinator, Claire Semina.
Thank you very much. Just a moment and I will share screen with you all. Okay. So I put together a little bit of a review of the last few months, so I could give you an update on all things communications in the city of Trail. To put a couple photos of my first 2 weeks there for you. It was very, very cold. We had a lot going on, got a sign put up for Silver City Days in the first week, even it was bitter cold. But Miss Lead Pro was very happy to help, and so things started moving along pretty quick. I just thought I'd put here my role statement for you all, so that we all know what my job is. It is a varied role with a lot of different pieces to it, so if you ever have questions about it, you can always ask me. But this is my role statement. Communications and events manager is responsible for all external and internal corporate communications. And as well, I work with community groups and operating departments coordinating civic events and activities that we either deliver directly or in partnership with or sponsorship of another group or organization. So here is some pictures of internal communications, things that I can speak to here. Yeah, Tracy, I've got a clipping from an email from you saying for the website with a couple job posting PDFs attached. I get in requests like this from different areas in the city of Trail across the operating departments, and we'll do web updates, ask for clarification or place ads. So we've also, some of these initiatives have come out of these internal communication pieces. The library having to advertise for committee members, of course. We have more coming up with that. Changes to service charges and when people are paying taxes or utility bills, we've had to create some signage about that and support the staff in communicating what they need to. The attention dog owners photo I have there is just highlighting some positive and continuing bylaw communication with me, where they're passing on information about things that they're coming up in their world regularly being reported, and then I'm working on how I can help deliver that message more broadly for them. So this was a reminder for residents about leashing dogs. That kind of came through by law, as well as the recent bear awareness post. So I think that that's a really strong internal communication win. And also the Aquafit photos, I wanted to show you these because on the left, you see an early graphic that I created for Aquafit. And this was not approved by the Trail Parks and Recreation staff and the coach, because it's not actually representative of their classes. And so we then, hearing that, I realized we had a need to fill in getting some high quality photos of this programming. And so the photos beside are the result of that. And I think that the coach, Amy, has been very happy with that, and the community's been really responsive to those images as well. In the news here, I've got just some clipping headlines. This is 17 clipping headlines from the Trail Times in the last 4 months. And then I have one that links to the Tyee here, and I'll explain that. But what I wanted to show you with this is that, one, we're getting coverage in the news, which is great. And two, it's kind of covering a range of topics. So I really like to see that there's interest and there's a lot going on, and they're picking up the public notices that we put out. So this is really great. Most of these clippings are all generated by us, and they don't this isn't capturing all of the clippings that are in the news. This is just a taste for you because I thought it's a great way to see that all of the things that are happening are getting coverage in our local paper. And further away in the Tyee is a bold, journalistic, independent journalism, media outlet based in Vancouver. And they put up an article about, I wonder if I can get it to open. Oh, it might not. They put a great article together that features the work that was done in, our Violin Lake dam decommissioning, and the rewilding of the wetlands and the restoration of the wetlands there. So it's a fantastic, positive, tone article in a provincial outlet, much larger scale outlet than the Trail Times that I thought I would highlight for you. And it's all very positive tone and discussing the changes in the restoration and at Violin Lake and Cambridge Creek. You can all see that, eh?
Mhm.
Okay, I gotta do a little bounce around again, sorry. Okay. So, here's some stuff from Facebook. We don't have a software that's measuring, media monitoring and social media monitoring, so I'm having to go into the native software applications and grab data and put it together as they don't have a software that Folsom does it, so bear with me while I get these screenshots a little bit higher quality or bigger for you. But essentially over here, we've had, 138 content pieces shared in 90 days. This page overview graphic on the left, it just shows the last 28 days, and you can see some figures such as our post reach being almost 15,000. And then the new page followers and page likes also coming in at 52 and 30 in the last 30 days. I think that's pretty great. That's more than one new person getting eyes and choosing to follow our communication every day. So that's really great. We also have a lot of people clicking our links, 310 link clicks in 30 days through our posts. So they're not only just kind of looking, but they're actually digging deeper into our content, which is really great too. On the right, you see two summaries. There's just the top 5 posts based on reach on top and the top 5 based on engagement. I look at these type of figures to help me figure out if I have a message that needs to reach really far, what's been working? What are the images? What type of content has worked for that in the past? And that's where I can dig into these stats and then make decisions about strategic communication pieces going forward. So the engagement, we see a lot of engagement on posts, but it's going to require more time, I think, to get enough data to better inform our strategic communications. But I wanted to put this here to show you that it's something that we can measure, that I'm looking at and using to inform future communication pieces. Instagram here is a bit of a follower highlight. I wanted to show you, when I started here January 2nd, we were just shy of 1,000 followers on Instagram. And I was like, I can't wait to get us over that 1,000 mark. And we did it very fast. I do see, in the last 90 days, we've had an overall follower growth of 396, and that takes into account the people who've unfollowed in this time. So really, we've had 419 new followers. Today, we're sitting at 1,399, so we just need one more and we'll be 1,400 followers. But we do see an overrepresentation of women on this, and I think I need to look closely at that and find out if this is comparable to usership of the app in general, I would say, and then also against other similar organizations to ours. Because it looks a little alarming to me to see that we have 77.5% women following, and I definitely would like to see that balance out more. If that is off trend, I need to look into this further to see if this is a typical trend for Instagram in general. And just over on the right, that all of our videos are probably covering up on your little screens, but it's just showing again that I can see how many, looking at the accounts reached, the top posts that are reaching accounts, this tells me what the algorithm is pushing at this time. And whether, and this is tags as well. So these posts are all likely tagged to other organizations, and then they also are highly visual, and that's what Instagram promotes. And that's typical on trend, what's been seen with Instagram for some time. So we can use that to continue to inform. And this was, of course, our social media contest highlights with Pacific Coastal Airlines. This was the slide they sent over, and they were very thrilled to do this project with us, and they were thrilled with the result. We were too. I think that these are some great figures. Almost 5,000 accounts reached, 33%, over 33% being non-followers. And that's where we saw a huge growth in our followership as well. I'll talk more about that on the next slide. But we did see, great engagement, and that it worked. We got a lot more followers, and it was a great community building exercise, I think, because from the followers that came from that, Pacific Coastal Airlines got 241 new followers. We got 346 new followers, and you can see below that they are mostly locals, which I think is great because we share a lot of local information. And so I'm super happy to see that it was a majority of locals following out of this campaign. And it's also great to see that we've got some new Vancouver followers too, who are gonna think about taking a trip here. And be reminded about trail with our posts upcoming. So yeah, that's kind of the summary of the followership just from this 1 week campaign with Pacific Coastal Airlines. And this is kind of a benchmarking tool that Instagram offers, and this is just the last 28 days benchmarking against other government agencies, category businesses. We're posting a lot more than others, which is great. I think the whole idea has been to try and get more information out about what's going on in trail. That's been a big thing on my mission. So we're getting a lot of published content, which is great. The follows, you can see there are higher than others because of the campaign, the Pacific Coastal Contest, that skews the data a little bit on this. But if you remove that campaign, we are on the typical 25 to 30 benchmark of follower growth per month right now. So I'm happy to see that. But our content interactions and our published content are higher than typical. So I'm gonna do my best to maintain that because I think it will continue to retain the followers that we've gained in the last little while. They want to see more. So in order to have that retention, we're gonna need to maintain this level of content publishing for a little while at least. Consistency is really key here. On LinkedIn, this is a new thing for us in the last 4 months. We didn't have a business page on LinkedIn before that was linked to City of Trail. So we've got it set up now and have had a organic reach of over 4,000 unique impressions on LinkedIn, which is great to see. We have, I think, 92 followers. We haven't put any money into this, no sponsorship, no spending money on ads on LinkedIn or anything. It's just organic, me sharing, you sharing, link it to your profiles and it will continue to grow. We're showing people are searching for City of Trail. We're getting unique visitors, post impressions, which are posts targeted to the business community on sharing on LinkedIn, not the same stuff we're sharing on Instagram. And our follower demographics, again, are mostly quite local, which I like to see because they're getting the local information. But we do have some followers from outside, which is great too, if we want to do job postings and recruit people to move to trail. It's a great advocacy place where we can be doing that. And we'd love to see some more of our staff linking to their personal profiles on LinkedIn and not being afraid to share things because they think could show that what a great place City of Trail to work is. So some upcoming, well, here's some events for the year, kind of a layout for the year of what I got on my eyes. Some stuff that's already passed, March 14th, BC Housing Community Dialogue Sessions. I got the chance to meet the group of you for the first time at the Life Labs ribbon cutting, which is pictured on the right-hand side there. We also had Skate with the Smokies and sensory skates, recurring throughout the winter at the public, at the Story Trail Memorial Center. And those were featured some partnerships with both Moving Mountains Therapy Services and the Trail Smoke Eaters. There was, right off the hop, I went to one of the events and I noticed that there wasn't enough signage about when it's Skate with the Smokies, that the ice needs to be cleared and at a certain time, and helmets are required when there's scrimmage happening. So that's the top right corner, little poster that was created to support that at Skate with the Smokies. Of course, you see we've got a fun run poster there too, and you all the other day at the Andy Belisky Park. We have upcoming the West Kootenay Homelessness Response Summit, April 29th and 30th. That's a Monday evening, Tuesday all day event. Silver City Days is right around the corner as well. Jason Bayfield opening is coming up Saturday, May 18th. Canada Day, July 1st, that's all in the works. We're done talking with the team, and we've got plans in motion for all the way up until Canada Day, including Canada Day. But haven't quite got asked to do too much on Pride yet. I'm in touch with the Pride Committee, and they gave me the date of August 24th that it will be going forward, and that's all for now, they said. So that's great. National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, sorry, I acronymed it. September 30th is coming. Last year, I know Trail had an amazing event, community event, and they were one of the only local communities actually that had a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation event. A lot of people, I think, came out and felt that it was a very good event. It was well received. So I think a lot of people are going to be turning their eyes to see what's going on in Trail this year again, and hope that we can do something. Amazing and Aging Fair is going forward October 2nd. I think that's a Wednesday. That'll be at the Trail Memorial Center. It's a seniors fair. And Spectacular is scheduled for October 26th. So those things are all moving forward. It'll be a busy year. This doesn't capture absolutely everything. We've got the Trail Pipe Band's 125-year celebration coming up as well. So I'm sure you all have heard about that. Lots of things going on, but those aren't things that I've been asked to work on. The city isn't necessarily a sponsor or partner on. So this is my list right now. Things may change. They may be added, things I might not be aware of yet that pop up. So that's what I've got going for now. I wanted to show some highlights here. News and public notices. We've been doing more than one a week this year. Direct mail projects, a little bit more than one a month. We're getting about 3 media inquiries a month. And we successfully did some committee recruitment for the library. They got 3 board members, and I think they're looking for maybe just one more, but our recruitment campaign on that was a success. So that's really important and good for our library. Also, the Trail Parks and Recreation Program Guide got published, and all our programming looks great and is filling up, I'm sure, full. Tourism Guide is about to go to print. There's some really cool new ads. It's got a little bit of a new look. It's great new impactful photos in there. So can't wait for it to be in print and online and shared broadly. Of course, here's an example of a mailer or updates we had to do to the tax exemption program, literature, some news, things that we had, of course, when we had the shelter. That was a pretty big undertaking and required a lot of different moving parts and communications pieces as well, to the federal RCMP and for activating and deactivating weather alerts. So that was a big highlight. As well, we've got just the community FAQ with BC Housing that was worked on collaboratively, and some letters to residents about things going on in their neighborhood that we sent to their direct mailboxes. So those are a few samples of some of our wins. And looking forward, you see a little ad mock-up here of an ad that I've recently created. This is in concept, it's not a perfect finish, but I really like this Explore More 24
Yeah.
and
That's
I think
great.
it's got a nice ring to it and it's a great way to
That's very nice.
use a lot of different photos of trail without them being on top of each other and losing all the
Mhm.
colors. Like it really uses a lot of white space and I really like this concept and I have a graphic designer actually developing it just a little bit better because I think it deserves it.
Yeah, that's great.
So
That's really good.
I'm happy with that and I'm happy that we can use some of these images again, or some of these images that never got to be used, some other campaigns in the past. So excited about that. I would like to maintain, putting out news and public notices about once a week. I think that seems to be working quite well. Direct mail projects, like once a month, it seems like to kind of maintain that. It's really great if we can keep communicating with residents of affected areas of whatever's going on. We did one for the sprinkler systems in Tatanack recently, for instance, so keeping those going will be really good. Media inquiries, I would like to increase to having once a week. I'd like to see journalists reaching out to me specifically more and getting a good relationship going and getting really timely responses to their requests. I think that will help our sharing information and tone in the media. Committee recruitment we've got coming up is the airport and the OCP. We need to bring back to life the downtown wayfinding lottery. And signage updates, there's a few things like the Gulch sign at the turnaround, it's quite faded, it needs a refresh. There's one down by the walking bridge on the downtown side that has outdated COVID-19 information. I'd like to refresh that as well. And continuing, like I'd like, as soon as the Silver City Days is done, next day we gotta have that Silver City Days changed to Music in the Park or something like that. So really wanting to keep those signage updates going and so that people know all the great things that are going on in trail. I believe that's all that I have for you in here. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and ask if you have any questions, please ask them. I'll try my best to answer.
Okay, thank you. Wow, you've got a lot going on. Or we do, right?
Yeah, we do.
Any
There's a lot going on
questions
in trail.
for Claire?
Just a comment, I was just gonna say, it's so great just to see the engagement, as a whole, doing lots of marketing, just people are saying, wow, we see like the city everywhere, like we never used to see the city as much, and now we're all over, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on, where people are just kind of quickly scrolling and they don't read a thing or a notice in the paper, but now they're seeing it in a different level that's connecting with them. As our demographic has been changing over the years, and it's really nice just to see that engagement up. So I just wanted to commend you and say thank you for the great work.
Thank you, Councilor Haslund.
And I can echo that as well. So important if we're going to promote transparency and accountability to have good communication. So fair, well done. I really appreciate the timely agendas that you're posting, the YouTube videos that are available for people to view. So just everything you're doing in all capacities, it's just been fantastic. So thank you so much.
Excellent.
Ditto to all of that. I also just wanted to comment that during the AKBLG this weekend, some of us sat through a panel that talked about mental health of communications coordinators. That you're the first line in terms of receiving the information. So just, I really want to let you know that you have a bunch of people supporting you and to really take time to take care of yourself because you are on that front line. So thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. That was a really important message we received this weekend, and I wanted to thank you for putting out such positive and respectful announcements. Everything that you put out is really positive, and I think that's really good for our community to hear. I just had a quick question though. If we wanted to get a sign down where the new shelter is going up, would we go through you? Would BC Housing go through you, or would we go?
So last conversations with BC Housing, they were saying they were preparing a sign and that it was in the works. I have kind of earmarked that outdated COVID-19 panel that's on the side of the walking bridge to maybe put information there. Because we already have that space for signage and it's just got outdated information, so I just need to put a new insert in. However, I think it would be important for the sign, there needs to be a sign at the location. And we're talking with BC Housing about it, it should happen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other?
I just wanted to say, like, and put it all into perspective and just say what a compliment to you on those numbers, because I think all of us around this table know how hard it is to get those kinds of numbers on some of our, work related things. And so when you put it into proportion, I mean, gaining 400 new people in the city of 7,900 is like gaining 40,000 in metropolitan, an area of 1 million or something. So it's like, when you think of the percentage of people that you're reaching, it's really like congratulations and kudos to you, because I think, and then on the side note, like in this, I too, like many people around the table, I think I'm hearing all this stuff and the positive messages that are coming out, the information that's coming out. It's nice. So thank you.
Thank you all for your feedback.
Yeah, and if you have any tips on how Councillor Cashoff begins followers, maybe.
That's not what I was implying.
I don't think I'm allowed to go.
Well, on that,
It might not be that good.
you may want to edit the photo of the aquafit, because I don't think Doug wants to picture it. There we go.
Okay, thank you so much, Better, for the
Thanks,
work
Becky.
that you do and presentation. Okay, item number 4, Parks and Recreation. We have David Moorhead here to talk about the Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center annual shutdown review.
Great.
Over to you.
Thank you,
Thank
Richard.
you.
Thank you everyone for having me today. I am here to speak to the shutdown, the annual shutdown that takes place at our Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center. As many of you know, that program spans a period of time late in the summer into September, in which we do a number of different items. Primarily, it is a time of deep cleaning, but also to complete a lot of maintenance items within the facility. And that's through a number of different areas, not only in the actual filter rooms, but capital projects. So this is kind of the only time where we have to really get through projects such as that. I don't want to diminish the work that the staff does on a year-round basis throughout the rest of the 11 months, because I personally think that they do an excellent job from our janitors, lifeguards, fitness hosts, front-end staff. The facility is kept in a really good condition, and our maintenance staff. What the shutdown is trying to do is to really, especially we can drain the basins, we can get to those kinds of maintenance activities that we just can't get to during ordinary parts of the year. This isn't just in trail. This is a kind of industry standard. There are shutdowns across all aquatic facilities, namely because you need to shut these plants down to do this type of maintenance. I'll direct your attention to graph 1 there. I will note that this is based on 2024's schedule. So we currently have our schedule running for 4 weeks. That is because we are doing a lot of grouting within our main pool basin this year. It's a continuation, and we're just trying to finish that up, but they do need a lot of time because it has to be thoroughly cleaned prior, scaffold set up, and then the grouting takes place. Needs a certain period of time to cure, and then the pool is refilled. So that's why you'll see it is a little bit longer this year, and it was last year as well, because of this type of work. Projects they have, so we're not too far out of the norm, but this year, because we are completing some larger pool basin projects, it is a little bit extended, and that's well communicated through our leisure guide. And so speaking to that, our leisure guide does come out in early mid-April, so to get that and to try and get the communications out, noting that when the facility will be closed, to give that kind of update to our users. It is booked well in advance, and that is both for the communication side of it, but also like I mentioned, summer capital projects. And so planning for that is done into the year prior, and into the early months. So, you know, if we have something coming that is gonna be quite large, for the facility, then we need to be well aware of when that facility closed so that our contractors or maintenance, personnel here can get everything in order so that we can accomplish that. And that speaks to 4.2 there. You know, it's difficult. I know we've heard from the community that our facility is a great place to go if there is, you know, wildfires within the area and smoke, but it's just very difficult to plan for something that is kind of a natural occurrence, and we don't know if it's gonna be a bad season. We can have precursors to that information based on weather data and that, but you know, we don't have any confirmation. Speaking to what I said before, we kind of have to have these planned and in place beforehand. So it's just very difficult to plan around instances such as that. And speaking to the overlap with other communities and why it appears that we're all kind of doing the shutdown all at the same time, it is because most recreation departments in the area are doing both aquatics and our arena facility. So the biggest one out of the three aspects that affect the reasoning, which is patron usage, facility staffing, and kind of our operational impacts. The operational impacts are the largest in the sense that our rink attendants that do a lot of the maintenance work outside of contractors and our internal staff cleaning are busy in the months of July, putting the ice in. So our ice starts going in mid-July for the main ice, because we have some users that use that Cominco Arena ice in August. Then they have a little break when that is fully in, and they can just attend to that when needed. They can come over to our pool, do all the maintenance tasks that are required there. And then right after that is done, they're back making ice on our kids rink and our curling rink sheets. So it is, you know, a busy few months there. And as you can see from graph 2 there, those summer months are a dip in patron usage. So we're trying to tackle two different issues, whereby providing the shutdown in a time when use is at its kind of lowest. Obviously, there is a dip in the August data because it has been shut down for those months. So, but if you carry that trend across, it is one of the lower portions of time, and it coincides really well with our operational standards and staffing. And in terms of staffing at the aquatic center, because our lifeguards and fitness hosts and janitors will do a lot of the majority of cleaning during that time. A lot of our staff is high school or college students, so we can get more of them during that day shift to come and clean and help assist with these tasks if it's outside of the September through June months. So there is a number of factors that we are playing with to try and make it work for our operations. And so this is why this span of time, kind of in August, September months, works best for us. Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
One thing I noticed in doing a review and speaking with looking at other communities and speaking with them, and with Claire, our communications and events manager here, something that I want to see is maybe a page within our recreation department's website on frequently asked questions. So some communities did have something like that, and just speak to it a little bit more of why the shutdown actually happens. And year to year, we can kind of provide updates on what we're doing, what are some of the bigger projects that are going to be accomplished out of it, just to show that we are, you know, really using that time well while it is shut down. And I understand it is an inconvenience, but the facility is close to 30 years old now, and it's more important than ever that we can continue this. Yeah. The recommendation before you is to not change those dates based on those aspects. And if anybody has any questions relating to the program, yes, Councilor Cashel.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. I guess for me, it would be we have this facility, and I appreciate the shutdown and the need, and I agree with you entirely. The staff does a fantastic job there. It's a wonderful facility that I take full advantage of. I love the facility. I love when my grandkids come over, and they come over in the August months, and, Papa, we want to go to the pool. Well, the pool's shut down, and I've talked to a lot of families where they're saying it would be nice if the pool could stay open in August, because that's when there's a lot of children that are home. Obviously, school's not in. And there's also a lot of children that don't have the opportunity to travel to Christina Lake or Kootenai Lake and, have those summer luxuries that a lot of our families that are a little more affluent have. So they're here, they have limited means, they have limited opportunity for recreation. And to have this facility, this beautiful, fantastic facility, not available, say, for those last 2 weeks of August, it's, I guess I question that, as somebody that would want to be a user then. So the shutdown that you're talking about, this very necessary shutdown, could it not happen, say, from September on? And leave those 2 weeks in August available for those kids that are here in the summer that might want to go to the pool? Because we've got Champion Lake, that's a fair drive. And we've got Jarrow Park, which is a great, lovely park, but it's also not the type of facility where you can really go and let kids just go wild in the water, right? So this is our biggest asset, one of our biggest assets. And I guess that would be my question is, couldn't you just start the schedule? And I appreciate what you're saying about staffing. And that is, an important consideration. And I value your report and your opinion 100%, but could it not just start in September? Would be my question.
Yeah, it is something we've looked into, but the difficulty between not only our TALC staff, but also the TMC staff and their maintenance schedules with the ice going in, it just becomes a little bit too burdensome for them to attend both facilities once, because they're making ice at that time, which entails most of the staff from the TMC. So they wouldn't be afforded the opportunity to come over to our TALC facility and provide those kind of maintenance in-house needs. So the other thing we kind of looked at too is, in the spirit of collaboration and, I know it's difficult speaking to the wildfire situations, but the Warfield pool and the Roslyn pool are both open at that time, and they have only short periods, that they're open. So, those are great facilities that should be, that can be attended, right? So,
Warfield's fantastic.
It is fantastic.
while I'll say I love our facility and, I want all of the regional users to be there. We're afforded the opportunity that it is covered and we have that, 24 or 365 day kind of operation, whereas they don't. So, local area residents should take advantage of those while they can.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one other thing too, as Mr. Moran spoke to, was the fact that this year's been long, the last couple of years, because we've been having to drain the pool completely to do the grouting. So again, when we go down to a shorter period of time, that should probably take one less week out of August in a sense. So hopefully, as we get it through this year, and going forward, that you would have a much shorter period of time in August that we're not on.
Councilor Benson.
Just in terms of the, and thank you for this, I was the one that put the motion out there, so I appreciate this, because it's a question, as I told you, that I get asked about all the time. And I guess the first one is that, our role as council is governance, for us to be making this motion about the shutdown. Like, I trust our operations staff to make that decision on their own, and seeing Colin's comment about receive for information. I'd rather just receive it for information and allow you to make that decision. The one thing that I was hoping to see more about is, and Dr. Pollack just talked about her climate change and wellness report that she put out. And I totally get that you can't understand when we may be impacted by wildfire smoke, but the past 7 years in her report do show elevated PM 2.5 in August in the late summer months. So I just wanted that as kind of one of your pillars of weight of this decision and how it can, I get the operational side. If you could maybe speak to how the weight of the outside smoke, how that impacts that decision, if it does at all.
The only difficulty with that is just the number of months in advance that we are planning it. So if we were to look at it, it would have to totally shift outside of those ordinary months near the end of the summer. And we'd be looking at the beginning, but then you're changing a lot of schedules in terms of budgeting and planning. for something that may not occur, and I understand that in those later months it is more prevalent, over those years, but, it just causes a lot of concern that, we won't have enough time in that early part of the year to get projects, initiated, or, if it is a larger project, that, you know, some are on the books in the coming years, we won't have items in place that early to initiate them, prior to a shutdown. That's just kind of the primary concern there. Added a lot to our, again, moving it into, the operational, requirements in terms of staffing and when our other facilities are operating. Because also parks are now open and we're attending to a lot of stuff in that regard, so.
And just one more through the chair. If, like, keeping this in mind, and I really think everyone should read the report that Dr. Paul put out, because I think it will affect a lot more going forward. Just for like future years, if you could use that as a point of consideration when planning your, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I really appreciate just the collaboration of communication. You know, I think the more aware our public is, the less people get excited and upset when they don't know something's happening. But, you know, the more we put it out there, whether it's, you know, at a community events, it's at public events, that they know that there's gonna be a shutdown, they know that this is gonna happen, you know, via social media, via the paper, via whatever events we're at. The more we get out there, the less people are gonna get upset about when things aren't happening or that they weren't aware that something was occurring. So I really appreciate the collaboration of the FAQs in the program guide.
I think it's important to do just the education for council, because we really want you, like you said, you get, you know, at the gym or at different locations for people, and being able to know at the top of your head the reasons why is because of this, we've had a, you know, there's a reason before it. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. So we're raising it so that there's an education that goes on for all of us, that we can speak to those that have questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions? Okay, thank you, David, for your report.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the work you put into it. I, for myself, though, I did have a question because, I mean, this year is our first, year with the TRP. And I'm wondering if you're going to see, more of an effect of people using the pool because of the smoke and not being able to, you know, be outside. And so the two outdoor pools would be shut down. And I know you can't do anything this year, but, and again, the Councillor Benson, mentioned that down at the, AKBLG this weekend. It was talked about a lot. And I think it's something that moving forward, we really need to consider that because it's going to be not just a, you know, might happen event. They're expecting it to be a regular occurrence, whether it's smoke, you know, fire, floods, whatever it is. I mean, I think we need to be prepared for it and so, yeah, just, you know, going forward, I think we need to keep that lens on it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are doing some good tracking, especially with Rosalind coming into the TRP program and seeing, you know, what the usage is at the facility and seeing, so it'll be good to have a little bit more data on that and see what that uptake is and, especially through the summer months, once, the June and July hit and depending on what, you know, the forecasts are, seeing if that trend line continues or maybe there are spikes, with new users. So, yeah, it'll be good to see and adapt from there.
Yeah, and no, and I wanted to say, I appreciate the work you're doing right now through all of that, and, yeah, this was a great report.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the recommendation is before council, and the recommendation is that council make no changes to the period in which the annual maintenance shutdown at the TALC occurs. Is there someone that would like to make that motion? Councillor Hanson, Councillor Wilson, second, all those in favor?
I'd like to make an amendment if I could.
Oh, okay.
I make the amendment that council receive this report for information as we are operational.
Okay, is that a friendly amendment or is that, Councillor, Ms. Butler?
Your worship, since we're in committee, it's absolutely fine to just make it a, there's not a lot of difference there, and I would suggest that simply because, the recommendation on the report leads us to believe that's forever and ever. And so just to receive it for information is probably a good thing.
Okay,
And I would, if you don't mind, I would just read that council receive the TALC annual shutdown review report of March 12, 2024 as information.
okay.
Makes sense.
All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Owen and Leo are not gonna be happy.
I'm going to work.
And you can
Okay,
give my phone
on
number.
to,
No,
item
good
number
report.
5, please, if we could, and that is the, general governance and finance. 5.1 is the application for the strata conversion of 1976 7th Avenue, and I will pass this over to Ms. Butler.
Thank you, I'm actually.
I'm just going to.
Oh, yes.
It
Thank
took
you,
my
Ellen.
attention that I
Thank you,
haven't.
Councillor Butler.
Conflict of interest? Thank you, through your worship. I'm actually going to hand this over to our manager of legislative services, Sandy Puccini, as she is the one who is most engrossed in this report.
Thank you. Yes, as council can see from their packages, we have a application before you for the strata conversion of the 48 rental housing unit that is known as the Shavers Bench Townhouse Complex. So we have done some work with our planning consultant in terms of providing a comprehensive review for council that sets out, the requirements of the Strata Property Act. And give you, and to provide you with background with respect to the application. So as it's stated in the report, there's 48 townhouses in this complex, consisting of 12 buildings. Each townhouse has 2 levels and 2 or 3 bedrooms. And as I have stated, that property is located at 1976 7th Avenue. There's some mapping provided for you, showing an aerial view of the complex. Of note, for this particular piece of property is the history involved. A strata conversion actually occurred when this property was previously owned. That process started in 2008 and was the city council of the day granted final approval of that process in 2010. The strata was eventually canceled in 2023, and I understand the reason was that the market was not good at that time, and I think of the 48 units, that only 3 had sold over a considerable period of time. So the owner decided to buy back the units that had sold and revert back to it being rental property. So analysis in terms of the things you must take into consideration are set out there before you. There's a Strata Property Act compliance table, self-explanatory to you. I won't go over all of those details right now. There's also a zoning bylaw compliance review for you, where the property is mostly compliant with the zoning and there would be just a small requirement for a play structure, which would be appropriate in this complex, given it probably would be marketable to families and the like. So now it's before council for your consideration, discussion. We're at the committee level, so you can have a fulsome conversation. We do have with us today as well, because I'm not a planner, or do we have a planner on staff? We are using WSP, and we have Katie Walsh with us today, who is here on behalf of the city. She's senior planner that provides consulting services to us. As well, there's Katie. As well, we have Scott Pelche. He is also with WSP representing the applicant. And as well, we have the applicant. Mr. Ames is here if you have questions for him. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back to you, Mayor Jones.
Okay.
To open the matter up for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lucchini. Any questions from council? Councilor Hanson.
Shall we just start now or in a few minutes? A number of questions. You know, we are aware as council that there is a massive shortage of rentals in our community. As well as we're trying to work with BC Housing to obtain more affordable rentals. So, you know, we know that if these things were to go to sale, that would be substantially different than what I'm assuming their current rent rates are. So, Mr. Ames, I would ask if I am allowed to, you know, what kind of drastic difference are we going to be getting in these rental amounts, like what they're paying per month compared to what, if these things were to sell, like what significant increase would these mortgage rates be and these rental accommodations that these tenants would have to afford to be able to retain their properties?
Hi, okay, I guess I'm speaking. I'm not Mr. Ames, but for some reason, I guess the link showed me as Mr. Ames. My partner is Mr. Ames. He's there also as Mr. Ames, I guess. We're both Ben Ames. My son's name is Ben. My name's Yuval. And I just discovered that I was also Mr. Ames. So I was slightly confused right now, pardon me. I missed a teeny bit of your question as you brought it up, but it doesn't shine through in the document that the city has, but we were very, very, very explicit and adamant in our application, the one that we wrote and sent through to WSP, that there is no removal of tenants. Everybody who's a renter remains in place. This is an opportunity for us to sell and for the existing tenants to buy. On the vacancies, we would open those up to market. But these are long-term tenants, and you know, they would stay in place until they would choose to leave or buy. So we have, I mean, when it comes to the existing renters, we have no intention of making any changes, and we've spoken to our planner, and they've explained to us that there is a way to lock that in into the contract with making it a strata. So yeah, that's, I hope that answers the question. If you want to refine and rebut, I'm happy to.
No, we didn't ask a question, but it's first. Yeah.
Just through the chair, a question?
Sure, Council.
So there's 48 units and I want to buy one. So I buy number 13 and it's occupied by somebody who's been living in there for a number of years. You're saying that I now own it. I own number 13. I can't evict these folks and move into it, or
What they're speaking about.
Sorry if through the chair, if I may
Yeah.
clarify. This is Scott. This is Scott Peltze from WSP. I'm the lead planner with land development. I'm sorry I can't have my camera on right now. As soon as I put it on with Zoom, it just cuts everything out, and it's gonna be a nightmare for you guys. So I'm so sorry. Just so if I could clarify, the proposal is that post stratification, the deal will be that no units can be sold unless vacant from the own volition of the renter. So if someone's renting unit, let's say number 13, and is happy to rent unit number 13 for the next 15 years, that unit will remain a rental unit. If the person who lives in unit 13 decides to move out on their own accord, then that unit will be available for sale. That's the proposal. So right now, at stratification, if stratification is approved, those who live in the units can decide to purchase them or continue to rent them as they so choose, and they can rent them for as long as they want. That's the proposal. I hope that clarifies things.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Hanson.
Right, so legally in the Strata Property Act, the way that you're gonna write the strata up is that those units have to remain as rental units until they become vacant. After they become vacant, at that point, then they will be taken out of the rental market that currently a local strata management company has had over 70 applications for rentals since April 1st. So now we're taking potentially those additional units with the massive shortage of rentals we already have out of that rental pool that we have a shortage of.
Potentially.
Depends on what the owner wants to do with it, right? Because
Yeah.
they could stay as a
Okay,
rental, it
just-
sounds like. Sorry.
I
Correct.
just want to, Councillor Hanson has been,
Oh, yeah.
but then I'll move on to you now.
Right, so
Or-
at that point, then we would, in essence, they could take those already massive shortage amount of rentals out of the rental pool as they become vacant.
But likely if you're a renter, you're going to stay in that place.
But
I'm just saying that if you're a renter, you're staying in that place as long as you can, if you can't afford to buy it. You're not going to move out.
right,
It's only going to be when someone leaves and then that owner, and they may own it and live in it. Or they may own it and then rent it out. So I think the thought process just is that it'd be one thing, I think, if the owner was saying, we're gonna try to move everybody out and then turn that over, so now you've got 75 plus another 47 units of rental on top of the 75 that are placed, that would be a different question. Here, very unlikely, at least at this point in time, that unless there's sort of a whole bunch of new housing gets built or, housing that would be at a lesser value that someone could move into. But they're making sure that the current rental pool renters stay there would be on fully their decision on whether or not they will leave. So that's I mean, it's a little bit of a different situation. You might have one or two that get another job somewhere else or move on, but it's, like I said, you'd be very unlikely to have a wholesale change at 47.
and I'll thoughtfully agree, I don't see them all, but I mean, if a tenant is late by 1 day, they can get a 10-day notice to evict. If there is an intention to be able to get that tenant out of there to be able to sell, if you are late 1 day, or they are going to make it, they can make it very stringent so that there is no grace. On top of that, every year you can increase that rental agreement, right? Every time you can, and so, I mean, like inflation, you can do rental increases like everybody else. At the rate that they're at right now, I'm assuming a lot of those people probably don't have a substantial down payment. Or they maybe do not have an equitable amount of credit or desirable enough to be able to finance those. So the likelihood that a very small amount of those individuals are going to be capable of purchasing those units that we are now having the opportunity to, that you're now asking to take out of our shortage rental pool.
I assume that was a question directed at me?
Yeah.
And I haven't been in this formal setting before, so I can answer. Okay,
Yep.
so with regards to the eviction, I mean, we're happy if you want to write that into the agreement. Like, I mean, I thought that this meeting was going to be more of a get to know you, and we wanted to talk about how we treat our tenants, and I mean, there's a few examples of responsibility, tenant facing, and also corporate responsibility from just we're paying people in Trail to do all the work on the properties. I think we have a really good reputation with the tenants and our property managers. That aside, we have no intention to evict people. So be stringent with us, right? Like, write it into the agreement, the right to evict. We're not here to evict people. And we realize, like, some of our tenants have been there 40 years. They're not going anywhere. Our average turnover is shorter than 40, obviously, but no, the people that are there will be there, and we will increase their rents according to the BC landlords guidelines, whether we're selling or not. We did do before purchasing, this was our intention from purchase. We also purchased a number of apartment buildings with an additional 70 units, which we're not touching. So those units remain. But you brought up one thing about the price of rent versus buy. I mean, it'll be an individual choice, but we think what we're presenting is going to be fairly break even. And for those who can afford the down payment, I mean, these are things that we can't write in, but we discussed between Ben and I, if we can help people with their down payment without creating risk for ourselves or creating risk for them. I think that's very difficult, but there's a possibility to do that. We also did approach the local credit union to see if we can help create a package to make it more feasible for people to qualify for mortgages. So we're still waiting on that, but again, to drop back to the main question, which was, would we be kicking people out? Or I mean, the answer is yeah, be as stringent as you need to make sure that doesn't happen, because we will abide by that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilson had a question, but he's not in the room right now. So, okay, Councillor Cashel, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like a little background on the owners. If you can just let us know, do you represent a corporation, or are you a private equity company? What's your background? Where are you based out of? Like, where are you at right now? Who are we talking to? Type of thing.
Absolutely. And maybe I'll start, or actually it might be better for Ben to start, because he was kind of the impetus of stepping into here. So Ben, maybe I'll hand you the floor and I'll speak right after.
Sounds good. And yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity to lend our faces to the application. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, Yuval and I, we have our own business. We're based in Hamilton, Ontario, private equity in real estate and real estate development. But kind of how we discovered Trail actually was it was kind of through my father. He has retired, and he's moved his winter months to Rossland, BC, and so I've been out to Rossland and to Trail for the last kind of 6 or 7 years now, and I helped him purchase an apartment in downtown, an apartment building in downtown Rossland, the Black Bear Apartments, if you know it. And then we have a condo up at Red Mountain as well, and so we're in the area quite a bit. And so when we saw this opportunity come up, it was maybe a little bit bigger than what we normally have done on our side, but we really like the opportunity and are really interested and excited about the future of Trail, and thought it would be a good one to tackle. So I think for both of us, this is kind of the first of many in the region. So,
what's the name of your company, Ben?
That's a good question. We don't really have a name just yet. We're just kind of purchasing properties, and we only started this business kind of about a year ago, basically, with the purchase of Trail, and then a couple others here in Ontario. And so the working title right now is Ames and Bavley Partners, which is not very original, but it works.
Yeah, Ben says private equity. I mean, it technically is, but not big bad private equity. I mean, it's just the two of us. Sorry. I'm visiting my parents' house. So I mean, my background, I grew up in Edmonton, somehow made my way to Ontario through school, and then met my wife here, and then kind of settled down, tried to move back to Alberta a few times, but it never seemed to pan out. I work in Hamilton. I was a commercial lender for TD Bank for many, many years, and always looked for entrepreneurial opportunities. I bought a dump truck company. That's how I got out of the bank. I ran that for a few years and then sold it, and then met Ben, and Ben was doing real estate with a few other people, and we decided really wanted to go on our own, and started talking about Trail while Ben was still at the other place, and we looked at this. I'd never been out to Trail. But of course, being from Edmonton, had driven through the area, further north, obviously, but, on the way to Vancouver, or stopped at Penticton, or, so been in and around. So it was my first time in trail, probably a year and a half ago, or maybe December 22. Spent some time there, really liked the area. And that's it. I mean, we went ahead, we got a couple of partners and we bought the property, and there's no like public market or anything. We don't have like a crazy timeline here. That's why, like, we're happy to let the people stay. We're not making any aggressive moves. Like also, we have a good reputation. Our payables are always at zero. We pay everybody on time. I'm really proud of that. Yeah, I mean, our accounting's all up to date. I think just from a honesty and integrity standpoint, it's always lead with integrity. I can say that, obviously everybody can say that. But I think that it's gonna, push comes to shove. I mean, our first step forward was to give it all away, right? Was to just say, no, we'll never move a tenant, right? That was just like, go all the way to the wall, from step one. And I hope that shows. Yeah, I mean, if you have any more questions about us, I have 2 kids, a wife, and a dog. Yeah. My dog's at Ben's house while we're visiting my parents.
Thank you. Counselor Wilson, you had a question earlier? No?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So while we're at the table here, I just have another this is more for my information, but maybe Councillor Hansen can help. So we've got 48 units in there, and I appreciate what you're saying about them not all becoming on the market at any given time, but based on, and again, please jump in here, Councillor Hansen, the value of a unit, once it's sort of refurbished and brought up to speed, I'm gonna guess minimum 350,000.
I would suggest, depending on that, preliminary townhouses are averaging in the mid-3s.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be, from your experience, for the folks that are living in there, and I know some of them, not well, but they come up with a 5% down payment. If it is $350,000, they need $17,500 cash. Balance of that would be a mortgage. Let's say the mortgage is around $330,000, $350,000. What would the average mortgage payment be?
Way more than they're paying for rent right now.
It'd be over $2,000.
It'd be like almost double.
So, I mean, realistically, to be honest, the folks that are living in there, in my opinion, are gonna really have a hard time mustering up the financing to buy these purchases, to buy these finances. So I just wanted to, just for some clarity for me, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Hansen. So it wasn't really a question, or do you want to tell us what, do you have a proposed price point in mind, I guess, going forward with the sale of these units? I'd be interested to know what they'd be selling for. Do you have any forecast for that? That's my question.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, we've been keeping track of comparables and kind of what potentially they would be worth. And I think 350 is a little bit high. I think we'd kind of look to Laurel Crescent is kind of a closer kind of neighborhood to where the townhomes are today. And in the last couple sales in there have been more kind of 275 to 300. And so that, I think that's kind of more where we'd be at in terms of what the values would be on our side. But yeah, like you've also mentioned kind of in his overview there, is that I mean, for us, from an investment standpoint, it's in our interest to sell as many as we can to the current tenants. And so while we don't have specific pricing on kind of what is going to go to the tenants versus what would go to market, there'll be a significant discount to tenants to incentivize them to be able to purchase. And then there's also kind of creative strategies on our side where we can help with down payments in kind of a rent to own type scenario if they can get a mortgage. But otherwise it'll stay as a rental stock. But I do just want to make one comment about kind of the type of product that they are. And like you've all mentioned, we do have 2 other apartments on Highway Drive, which are more your standard kind of rental apartment. This property, the townhome specifically, they're kind of 3-bedroom. Everyone has their own driveway. their own fenced in little backyard. Like these are more ideal for owners versus renters. They can really kind of put roots down into a home that's at a more affordable price point. And so I certainly understand, we're definitely seeing it in Hamilton, the lack of rental housing stock, but we're also seeing the lack of kind of more affordable housing product as well. And so I think incentivizing everybody to be able to own versus rent is a positive generally. So that's sort of our kind of thought process behind that.
If I may, we went into this with a calculator on where we would land, and the number that you threw out kind of shocked me. And I was like, oh, that'd be we'd sell it in a flash if everybody thought that it was worth for 350. But the rent to own, I mean, it's obviously a factor of interest rates, and looking at individuals who might not qualify as quickly or as readily. Again, we've gone to Kootenay Credit Union and said, what if we do a rate buy down? And people would just be more likely to apply to qualify. The break even number, I mean, if you go to market rents, I think we're a little bit under, but market rents for a new renter who would come into the space would very easily be 2,000 or over. We know that, I mean, from our units, but we also know that from just keeping an eye out on prices across the market. And if you just all else equal, I can, I've got a calculator here, but I can, the calculator that I made, but if you're using 300,000 as the price and a currently monthly rent of 2,000 and your taxes, I've doubled the taxes on the property for the city taxes, we're still saving over market rent $500 a month. Yes, that's $500 a month. So that's pretty aggressive. I mean, we thought our pricing would be a little bit lower than that on the house, at which point, there's higher savings. And I'm using 5% interest rate, which is probably 30 points off the best rate you can get. The credit union would be a bit higher, but again, if we had a rate buy down, and then you're looking at an under $30,000 down payment for 90%, but there are 95% insured loans, and I'm a mortgage broker as well. Licensed, not that I do a lot of deals, but it's nice to have a license. So to long story short, it's not as crazy as you think. It's really pretty darn close. And in fact, at those numbers, we're looking at a savings.
Okay, so just a quick question. I wanted to ask about the strata for the yard work. When you added the strata fee on, I'm just wondering how much what that would look like. I'm sure the people that are living there now don't have that fee attached to their payments. And it's probably going to be a ballpark figure that you could give me, but just to, add that to the conversation of the payments.
Yeah, I didn't actually throw that in there. So I don't have that in the quick calculator.
Okay.
So yeah, not off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think the city's goal, I know that we talked about it a lot around the table, is that we do want to get safe and affordable housing into this area. And the fact that when I was reading the information that we received, I was happy to see that no one would be without a home during this process. Everybody would be able to stay in place until it was completed, and I think that's important. The fact that you're willing to add the child gymnasium outdoor equipment to it, whatever we want to have a look at and put in place for our guidelines, I guess. I just think it's really important that, these buildings are over 50 years old, like you said. They do need some work done to them. And I think that's, it's important that we have that kind of housing in this area for people to even have an opportunity to own one. And, yeah. Councilor Hanson.
So I just wanted to ask also in regards to the strata fee question, not to mention what the additional strata fee is gonna be on top of their mortgage. How are you planning on running, and when you're setting up a new strata, of course, you've got to run your contingency. And also you're gonna have to do a depreciation report so that those potential buyers know exactly what kind of cash calls are gonna be coming from the strata that's gonna have to be paid by them. So how have you accommodated that into what they're gonna have to, like, if we look at the whole number of what people are gonna be paying in there, it's gonna be much more than just their purchase price. And have you come up with a number based on a depreciation report already of the asset? Or an asset review of it as a whole, and what things are gonna have to be spent money on, and who's gonna be covering those costs? Because it's gonna add up substantially.
So first of all, and again, you know, we're asking these questions, but anybody who doesn't want to buy, nothing changes for them. Absolutely nothing changes for them. We have no intention to change anything, all else equal. So, you know, Councillor Cashel, when you ask about the sticker shock, the first thing we're going to tell, like, we're going to have a town hall. I'm going to be there talking to the staff, and they have to know that, to the tenants, they have to know that nothing changes. Absolutely nothing changes unless they want it to. If they look at the feasibility, and again, the numbers that I shared with you, I told you a monthly savings of 500. Extrapolate that for the year. There's a lot of room there. There's a lot of room, and like I said, I've doubled the taxes on the property to even get to that point. So there's, for somebody who wants it, it's an affordable housing opportunity. For somebody who doesn't want it, literally nothing changes, and that's it. I mean, there's lots and lots of room for landscaping. You know, yeah. I mean, that's all I can say.
I guess to just to kind of clarify, based on your question there, we haven't run a depreciation report just yet on it, but obviously all of that will come into play when we're setting up when we're finalizing the strata and establishing a contingency fund for the property. We are relying on a couple of things. First, the report that was completed in the previous strata application, which outlined that some of the roofs needed doing at the time. So those, like, I think about half of the 48 were redone at that point. And so for us, we're budgeting in our minds that the other half are going to need to be redone before they would be kind of released to the strata pool. There's always sort of different maintenance and expenditures that come along with home ownership, for sure, but generally our property manager there, he's quite handy. He's been doing the kind of renos and on each unit as tenants turn over, and so they're all in quite good shape despite the age. However, just kind of the one point for your side would be the roofs. It would, as more of a costly expense, but it's been on our minds that we'd be responsible for completing the other half and establishing a sufficient contingency fund in the strata to be able to fund kind of future expenditures. So.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Cashel.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. What are the current rents now, if I may ask?
They across the board, depending on how recent they are, but they'll range. I'm opening it up. They'll range from about $950. There's one here. Let's see the oldest one. Yeah, there's one that's 40 years old, but that one just that's around 700. But they range from about 950 to 2,000.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thanks for the information. Just wondering if you had any feedback from any of the current tenants regarding this, positive or negative, if you're willing to share. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we discussed with WSP, and you know, there was some initial discussion about going to the tenants first. We just don't want to beleaguer the process with potentially one individual who doesn't understand what we're doing. Well, what if you kick me out of my house? What if, well, you know, we can write this ironclad for the city. Nobody leaves. Nothing changes for you if you're not. And so we decided to go through the city process first. And then, just don't want to get stuck, because you know how it is that with almost 50 people, our intention is to immediately go to them afterwards, and make sure that they're aware of their options.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready for the recommendation? Any other questions?
This is just a staff question. The guide that was provided for us for the strata approval, how old is that?
It's very dated.
Okay, just because I'm looking at, because the municipality is gonna need to do an updated needs and demands study on a regular basis. So every, I think, 5 years for the new bylaws. So I would think that maybe that we need to, at some point, we will need to review that and update that to have it reflective, not of CMHC from 2018 numbers, because they're not necessarily the most accurate data, because no one actually, if you don't report it, then it's not on there, but actually based off what our local needs and demand studies are to reflect that to a true value of what's going on.
Okay,
And so council's aware, this is the first step, right? It's not like this is just the, the nod towards, again, final approval is still something else that is in more decision-making power.
Okay, so this is just to get the temperature? If
Well,
we-
there's some steps, if you read in the staff report, it talks about this, where this is at on the step, and there's work to be done, and then it comes back.
okay, so I'll read out the recommendation, and the recommendation is that council grant approval in principle for the strata conversion of rental housing units in the Shavers Bench Townhouse Complex at 1976 7th Avenue. And further, that council follow the process outlined in the City of Trail Strata titled Conversion Guidelines before final approval of the 1976 7th Avenue Strata conversion. Councilor Benson moving that, Councilor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor? Carried.
Can I register my opposal?
Oh, sure. Councilor Hanson and Councilor Cashel.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. It was
Thank you very
carried.
much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a
Thank
good week.
Okay, item number 6 is a resolution to adjourn the Governance and Operations Committee portion of the meeting and immediately resolve into in-camera meeting pursuant to section 91C, E, and K of the Community Charter.
I make an amendment that we have 5-minute break instead of immediate.
Councilor Martin, and Councilor Wilson. Okay, thank you, guys.
Nice amendment. I'll get Mr. Butler.